Welcome to the You're Not Crazy podcast, hosted by Jessica Knight, a certified life coach who specializes in healing from narcissistic and emotional abuse. This podcast is intended to help you identify manipulative and abusive behavior, set boundaries with yourself and others, and heal the relationship with yourself so you can learn to love in a healthy way. You can connect with Jessica and find additional resources, content, and coaching at emotionalabusecoach.com.
Hello, and thank you for being here. Before we dive in, I want to go through the fine print and share how we can work together. Because healing from this kind of pain takes a lot more than time. It takes the right kind of support. I work with people entangling themselves from emotionally abusive relationships, coercive control, trauma bonds, high conflict co-parenting dynamics, high conflict divorce, and if you're at the beginning of the road and wondering what divorce would look like. I offer one-on-one coaching at every stage. If you're still in the relationship, if you're unsure if it's abuse, if you know it's abuse but you're having trouble understanding what that looks like, or what to do with it, I can help you name what's happening, start setting boundaries that work for you, and figure out what you need. If you're thinking about leaving, we'll explore what that might look like in a grounded and personalized way. If you're navigating divorce or custody or co-parenting with a high conflict person, I can help you document, strategize, and stay emotionally anchored, especially when you're being gaslit, discredited, and re-traumatized by the legal system. If you've already left and you're stuck in the trauma bond, or if you've been discarded and struggling to feel like yourself again, I can help you rebuild self-trust and reconnect with your own nervous system in a way that actually feels doable. Everything I do is highly personalized. I don't walk you through a one-size-fits-all program. I listen, I reflect, and I guide you based on what you're facing right now. And some people work with me through a one-time validation call, which is offered on my website, where we zero in on one issue you're struggling with and start to untangle it together. Others work with me on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on what's going on in your specific situation. And this is especially helpful when healing from emotional abuse and also in divorce. If you're curious about starting, I offer a $25 intro call, which if you listen to my older episodes, I call it a clarity call. It did used to be free, and I talk about it at a later episode, but really a lot of people were no-showing to those calls, and that was taking away time from clients that I do work one-on-one with. And so if we move forward, I just take that fee and apply it to your first session. That intro call is just for us to get on the same page so you can share what's going on for you and I can share how I might be able to help. I only take a limited number of those calls per month because one-on-one coaching is the core of my work. Out of all these offerings that I have, one-on-one coaching is the thing that I do the most, and I do it 6 days a week most of the time, 5 to 6 days a week. And so if my calendar looks full and if there's not a time that you can get in, you can email me at jessicaknightcoaching.com, and I always try and make space where I can. And I may also always have a few openings from one-on-one client reschedules. You can also explore self-paced courses and toolkits at jessicaknight.thinkific.com, including Divorcing a Narcissist 101 and the Emotional Abuse Breakthrough course. I have a documentation course and my new signature program, Unhooked, which is a private podcast and course that walks you through the full cycle of abuse, helps you map it in your relationship and how to break it and how to begin to see what it really is that you're going through. If you want ongoing support in a more flexible way, you could always check out my Substack at jessicaknight.substack.com. Each month I focus on a different theme, from trauma bonding to divorce to cluster B to sexual coercion to emotional abuse to toxic breakups. Those are just some from this year. Paid members get access to monthly deep dives, master classes, Q&As, strategy kits, and I'm working on some more group options. There is also a free option and a monthly option. So please head over to Substack. The link is in my show notes. You also can just search Jessica Knight Coaching and I'll come up. Everything that I create is meant to help. My coaching, my writing, my courses, this podcast, it's built around the one truth that you're not crazy. You are conditioned to doubt your reality, and I want to help you change that and understand what you're going through. If you like this podcast, the best thing that you can do is subscribe and rate the episode 5 stars. You can find me on my websites, emotionalabusecoach.com and high-conflict divorcecoaching.com. All of the offerings that I just mentioned are also in the show notes below. Now let's get to the episode. My microphone isn't working, so I apologize if the audio on this isn't the best. I am wanting to talk through an important topic about leaving a relationship with somebody who has BPD, especially when it comes to divorce, because it can feel like a prison that you never thought that you were in. And that is not to say that the person with BPD is not struggling. And BPD, I mean borderline personality disorder. But every time I talk about this and what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody who presents with borderline personality disorder, it's like I get burned on the stake. And I get it, because most people's point is that they're struggling too. And I hear you, but from being on the other side of it, I felt like I couldn't leave because this person's entire identity and worth was based on me staying in something that was killing me. And a lot of times it doesn't matter that I'm careful or that I am trauma informed or that I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm not diagnosing anyone at all. I also say all the time that these personality disorders cluster together. So even if somebody has BPD, they also likely have other traits too, and probably other mental health diagnosis. But what I'm really saying is that somebody who has BPD, it's untreated. They're not doing anything to work on it other than denying the fact that they have it, doesn't usually lead to them working on it. And this is the thing. Personality disorders exist. They're real. They impact relationships. And survivors deserve to talk about their experiences. And it's not about vilifying people. It's about recognizing the impact. Because the uncomfortable truth is that when we talk about narcissistic abuse, most people nod. They even will say that, yeah, they've experienced it, or that's just a buzzword on Instagram, so they'll mock it. But when we talk about antisocial traits, people tend to understand, even if they oversimplify it, or like, oh, he just doesn't care about those things. But when we talk about BPD, especially in relationships, people react like we're speaking hearsay almost, like they're hurting, they're not harmful, they're dysregulated, they're not abusive, they don't mean to. But the impact matters a lot more than the intent. And if somebody's drowning in emotional dysregulation and pulls you under with them, you're still drowning. If somebody erupts in rage and blames you and collapses, idealizes, devalues, punishes you, your nervous system still gets shredded into pieces. And if someone is weaponizing their pain over and over again, your body still registers the danger and feels like you can't talk. It ends up that you isolate and silence. And so it's not about blaming. It's really about the relational dynamic that comes up. And so the reason that I want to talk about this a little bit deeper is because when we understand what the dynamics look like, we can give people a way out or a way through, and a way through understanding. I work with people, the partners, all the time about how to leave a relationship like this, because if they get to the point where this is killing them, how to leave without feeling like they are destroying the other person. And you might have to go about it in a different way. It's not just, oh, you're done, you leave. But it's like, how do I leave without over triggering this person, even though they're oscillating between rage and care and love and abandonment, back to rage, to anger, to war all the time.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what this looks like and like what this looks like to be on the other side. The purpose of this is to validate your experience if you're living in this. And because it's like being in a relationship with someone that has like the abandonment panic cycle all the time. Doesn't feel like a relationship. It actually feels like living inside somebody else's emotional emergency. And your nervous system becomes the collateral damage. And so one minute you're the safest person in the world. The next you're the villain in a story that you didn't even know that you were in. And there's usually no transition, no conversation, no shared reality, just a sudden shift. And you know the storm is coming even when you haven't done anything wrong. The tone changes, the messages get sharper, and all of a sudden it's you abandoned me, you don't care, you're hurting me on purpose, you're the reason I'm falling apart, you ruined me. So you go from human to threat in 5 seconds. And when you try and help, it gets worse. So you might do what a normal, grounded, empathetic person would do. You might reassure, clarify, calm things down, stay calm yourself, say things like, I'm here, I care. But somehow every word comes back twisted. When you say I'm here, what they hear is like you're mocking me, or I care. You're lying to set me up. I'm not leaving. You're trapping me. Let's talk. Then they feel attacked. And so the entire conversation becomes like a hall of like those crazy mirrors that you see at the circus or used to see at the circus or that I've told are at the circus. Nothing you say lands where you intend it to land. Not because you are, but because they are in a state where they cannot hear you, cannot see you, and cannot process reality. So their pain becomes your responsibility, and their emotions become life or death assignments that you must fix immediately. So their panic is your fault. Their rage is also your fault. Their shame is because you're so cruel. And their dysregulation is because you've decided to abandon them. And so it's like being an emotional first responder all the time, but it's a job that you never signed up for, that you are not qualified for, but you're also not allowed to stop working. And you learn to scan their breathing, their tone, the length of their text messages, the speed of their typing bubbles, like the silence between the messages, because any of it could predict the next explosion. And your nervous system is hanging on to that. And so the accusations that are coming hard and fast are really hard to wrap your mind around, because once they're in a sense of identity collapse, they don't just panic, but they start rewriting reality. And suddenly it's not something you didn't do or how you didn't show up. It's something didn't happen because of something you caused, or something they imagined becomes something they swear that you did. Something that you didn't do is now something you absolutely did, and they have proof, even though there's no proof. They throw these accusations so confidently that you really start to doubt your own memory and like your integrity and your goodness. And if you did the right thing, and what are you doing? And are you the worst person in the world? And this is where the deepest injury happens. It's not the yelling, the crying, the chaos. It's really that erosion of reality, and why it's so hard to break out of it, and why it's like, for me to say that I could paint a picture of how to begin to get out of it, it's not that I'd be lying to you, because there are certainly ways in which to navigate this. But I will say it's almost highly personal, because it depends on you, your coping mechanisms, and the dynamics of the relationship. Because usually by the time somebody comes to me for support, the person in it is managing their other person's nervous system instead of living their life, because they have stopped having needs and stopped having preferences and stopped having emotions. And it causes you to become like really careful and small and isolated and neutral and predictable and hyper aware, hyper responsible, and really exhausted. And you start planning your day how to prevent their collapse. There's a cycle that I see that happens a lot, and this is not from a book or something. So if it was, I would reference it, but it's really, I do a lot of work around the cycle of abuse. And so this is part of it. It's rage, collapse, panic, pleading, accusation, rage, collapse. And then it goes through again. Rage, collapse, panic, pleading, accusation, rage, collapse. Every stage requires a different version of you. You become 6 people in one conversation. You're the therapist, the parent, the calming voice, the repair mechanism, the punching bag, and the villain. No matter what you say or do, they circle back to, you hurt me on purpose. You abandoned me. You destroyed me. And you begin to believe that the only safe version of you is the one that barely exists but needs to exist in this relationship. And the hardest part of borderline relational abuse is that they're suffering, and you could see the terror in their panic and their desperation in what they say, the emptiness behind a lot of the threats. And because you're empathetic, because you're human, you try and help them. But their pain, especially if they're not managing it, trying to manage it in therapy, having solutions, you might disappear into it. And I think this is the part that people just don't say, but being on the other side of the cycle feels like walking on eggshells inside of your own life. You have to deny your own reality just to keep somebody else emotionally regulated. You feel responsible for preventing somebody else's meltdown. And you're loving someone who turns you into the enemy every time they get scared. It's not difficult or volatile. It's also not just trauma. It's pathological relationship abuse. And it leaves scars that people rarely understand unless they've actually lived it. I did an episode a while back where I talked about like the cycle of it, and I will put that in the show notes that you can go back to it if you want to. It might be helpful. It also might be very validating. The hardest truth is that you can't rescue them from their own pain. The core wound inside of somebody with BPD is not something you can heal. Their need to be saved, stabilized, soothed, protected, regulated is not something a partner can sustainably meet. And when you fail, because everyone does, it goes right back to that cycle I mentioned of rage and blame and accusations. And I want to just say again that this isn't about blaming, it's about naming that people with BPD are not quote unquote bad. They're suffering, but their partners are suffering too. And partners get lost and worn down and erased. And I was with somebody that like dysregulated outward. It was like his rage was put onto me. Some also dysregulate inward by being silent, stonewalling, hot and cold communication. Some partners don't lash out and they just withdraw. They punish with being absent, but then idealize you. Sometimes it's the one that acts really warm in public, but then blocks you in private. You begin to mistake this in a lot of ways because it's almost like you have to in order to survive it. Again, this is not to diagnose anybody, but it is to help you see the way that you are treated as part of a recognizable, predictable relational pattern. That's not your fault. You didn't imagine it. This is what people experience when they're on the receiving end of an unstable and self-serving attachment style and personality disorder. The behavior is also part of the same pattern. If you are really resonating this, if you need support, if you feel like this hit a lot of nails on the head and you're like, I want to understand this more, at least understand how to protect myself so I can begin to get through this. I work with people on this all the time. You can reach out to me at emotionalabusecoach.com or email me jessica@jessicaknightcoaching.com. You also could go to my Cycle of Abuse private podcast. It's called Unhooked. It is on my website, and walk yourself through the cycle because I think it would be really helpful to begin to put together what this might look like. I'm going to do another episode on this, on the BPD cycle of abuse. And once I do, and it will come out after this one, I'll link it to the show notes. So that way they can go together if you need more support. I really do hope that this was helpful. Again, if you want to burn me at the stake, you won't be the first one. But I want you to walk away feeling like what you're going through is not okay, but it's following a predictable pattern. And if you see it, you might not be able to unsee it. I really hope that this was helpful.